Last one action. नहीं मेरा नाम कौन action था? नहीं Harshya. Two भी last bio class Tuesday ना last Tuesday ये absent थी तो श्रेया Wednesday ला होते but Tuesday ला सुद्धा class होता तो कौन और कौन मैं present थी मैं निहारी प्रशंसा ये था अंशुल आर्या और थे ये सोहन नहीं कर सकते हाँ वो नहीं था और वो रुद्रेश नहीं था आनंद था इससे नहीं नहीं था खाना मतलब कौन है लोगों को अरे यार मी प्रशंसाला सांगितलं की बोली का करायचं मतलब आहे प्रोग्राम लिए किती दिवस आपण याला बघायला हाँ आयोगाच्या प्रश्नांचे एवढे राहणार ना जेला सोडू 2014 मध्ये तो किती वर्ष होता आजोबा लागला असेल अरे हां 2014 में 15 16 17 19 20 21 22 15 इयर्स असेल ना आपल्याला हां 15 मग 16 17 18 19 20 नाही आता त्याचं एज्युकेशन जॉब वगैरे चालू असेल कुठेतरी गेला असेल USA किंवा कुठेतरी शिकायला लॉन्ग में शॉर्ट एक हमारा क्या है मी हमारा तो नहीं हाथ लाने के लिए अरे सारे हाथ पर नहीं वो यार Wait, can someone solve it? नहीं है। हाँ ठीक है। मेरे नाम से नहीं हम लोग पे होता है क्या? आज हम चलने आगे। अगले 2 घंटे तो लास्ट ये आए लास्ट सेम अबे इनको खुल मैं एक बार आरव को बोलता हूं ये हिंदी नहीं है हिंदी नहीं है हां कल कुछ क्या हां ठीक जल्दी जाओ मुझे कुछ हां हमें क्लास में सारे लीव से ब्रेक पड़ेगा नहीं दिया श्रिया आई थिंक वो भी रहेगी मैं कुछ अभी श्रिया सबसे बुरी बात क्या Okay, she's not watching. इसके साथ ही है ना ये वाला वीडियो इंडिकेट रहेगा ना होगा ना सैलरी के हां सैलरी चलेगा
ये मेरा दोस्त है सबका अननोन नंबर Happy Independence Day. तुम लोग को देख के नहीं लग रहा कि तुम लोग इंडिपेंडेंट हो, कोई जोश ही नहीं है उसमें. ओह, उधर he's busy with his phone. कब है एग्जाम्स?
October 4th.
4th October. Your school did not get any other day to start the exam. Why did they postpone the exam?
They postponed the exam.
I know that. I know that. अच्छा खासा 19 सितंबर को शुरू हो रहा था. Why did they postpone 4th October? 12th की 19th. अच्छा, for you all. For my daughter it was 19th. सितंबर में शुरू हो रहा था. For you all?
27-28.
सितंबर. हाँ, अच्छा है ना. नवरात्रि के पहले खत्म हो जाता, कितना अच्छा था. Never mind. How are you? Good. You look very happy today after independence. What big change has happened in your life? Nothing. Only that we had hoisted the flag and so many no selfies, and otherwise our life is as it is. I have to teach and you have to study. है ना? कोई अलग कुछ नहीं है. चलो. What we were studying? Which chapter we were studying? Chemical coordination. Chemical coordination. Half of it we had done. कहाँ तक पहुँचे थे? Chemical coordination. अच्छा. Hormones we have finished already. Hormones we finished all 5 hormones done. I gave you some questions also. Huh? Geotropism. Till that we have okay. Tropic hormones we are already done. Give me that book. Class, I gave you some questions, no, on hormones. Tropic movements are easy. Questions on hormones would be a little bit difficult. Quite a number of them have similar functions. That's why. Actually, let us finish, then I'll give you questions. Many questions are here. Okay, Selena does not have that many questions in that chapter. Let us complete. So, what we were studying is So we had already finished with this, where we had already come across what are the different hormones, basic functions, and differences. Now, what are we going to understand is, we are into tropic movement. This also we had done, no, the other day, how oxygen is associated with the concept of phototropic movement. So now, did you complete with this? Chemotropism, did you complete with this? You said geotropism. We got here. Geotropism, we got here. So, okay, so phototropism, this we must have completed. No? Then, what do you understand by tropism with reference to the force of gravity? So, when we are talking about geotropism, tropic movements and geotropism. How would you define that word? You get questions like this. What is geotropism? Define geotropism. Define phototropism. How will you define? And these type of definitions, typical pattern of way of writing. When you are talking about geotropism, how would you write? The movement of plant parts towards gravity, the growth of the plant parts towards gravity, the movement of the plant parts in response to gravity. So that is a typical definition to write. Phototropism, movement of the plant parts in response to light. Hydrotropism, water. No? So the typical definitions. Negative geotropism. Which part of the plant shows negative geotropism? Shoot. Root would show positive geotropism. So this type of a figure for these type of questions always will be there in your paper. A typical type of a diagram, almost the same that is there in your book. Unlike absorption and transpiration, they will not give you an application question much with a different set of a diagram altogether, but you will generally get a typical diagram because this chapter was has been included in your syllabus just recently, so not too many questions also have come up. Germination of seed is a very common example about geotropism, about the concept of geotropism. So when we are talking about geotropism, how can you justify the germination of seed? Because whenever the seed is germinating and we talk about the radical that generally forms faster, the first tissue that gets formed after the process of formation of the breakdown of the seed pod, and that always moves towards the soil. Response to gravity, the radical growing to form the root, and by that time the shoot will grow to, or the primule will grow to form the shoot. So here again we are talking about that, yes, certain parts of the tissue, certain tissues of the plant always respond to gravity. Hydrotropism, if I ask you, can you give me a simple, can you talk about a simple demonstration of hydrotropism?
Roots growing towards
water. Say suppose now I take a trough or a ball, and then I have taken a wire gauge up there. I take a wire gauge. In your laboratory, biology or chemistry, if at all you have seen what is a wire gauge. Wire gauge would generally mean it is made up of iron, basically, thin iron strips, and in the form of a net like this. And then there is some filter paper in the center where we can place certain things, something like this, I suppose. So now we are not actually putting it here, we are actually putting it up here. And then what are we putting on the surface? We are putting some seeds which are already soaked. We put some seeds, we put some seeds on the center, away from the center. Then what is there inside? There is water inside, in the trough or the beaker or the bowl, whatever we take. What are we expecting after a couple of days, after 2-3 days, under all normal temperature, atmospheric conditions, environmental conditions? What are you expecting? What will happen to these seeds? They'll undergo the process of sprouting and germination. No? And again, if I talk about now hydrotropism, I understand that there will be certain tissues which will start moving towards the water. Now I'm not talking about gravity only. Of course, gravity is also there. But now I get to see that the roots are moving towards water, and there is one more tissue which is moving upwards. Plumule. So I would say that yes, if I have to understand the concept of hydrotropism, that is also true, that I am understanding that there are certain parts of the plant, something like the roots, the radical, it moves towards water, shoot away from the water. So shoot shows negative hydrotropism and root positive hydrotropism. So there are many such demonstrations like this when we talk about the concept of geotropism, hydrotropism. Now we talk about chemotropism. Definition again, I tell you. How would you write the definition of chemotropism? The response of the plant parts towards chemicals. The response of the plant parts towards chemicals. In response to chemicals, how do the plant parts show a particular type of a movement? Now, so far, if I talk about, I've been talking about the movement of the roots towards gravity, the movement of the shoot towards light, the movement of the roots again towards water. In all these three, can you tell me Are we talking about what is common? Are we talking about growth in all these three? Yes. Are we talking about that the movement, can the movement be reversed back? Can the movement be reversed back? No. Once the movement has happened, it has happened. No, you cannot, there's no, it is not reversible. You cannot reverse it by any other condition. And is the movement in the direction of the stimulus or any other direction away from the stimulus? The movement, now that I talk about the sunlight and the bending of the shoe, now that I talk about the roots and the water is the stimulus, no? Is the movement in the direction of the stimulus or away from the stimulus? In the direction of the stimulus. So now, before I proceed, which you will again come across common in all the rest, what type of movements are we now talking about? We are talking about tropism. We are talking about tropism, hydrotropism, geotropism, etc. So what is common? The three major factors of tropism, which will remain standard in any example you talk about. What are those 3 points I told you just now? The movement is in the direction of the stimulus. Stimulus can be any particular factor like the water, the gravity, the touch, the temperature, light, etc. Chemicals, now that we are going to talk about. So now I'm saying is that if it is tropism, the movement is always towards the direction of the stimulus. What is the second point I told you? If it is tropism, then the movement is irreversible. If it is tropism, the movement is in relation to growth. If it is tropism, the movement is in relation to growth. Now let us try and satisfy ourselves. Does it work for all of them? Now I'm talking about chemotropism. What is chemotropism? How should we define chemotropism there? मैंने अभी ऑलरेडी डेफिनेशन में बोल रही थी ना बार-बार जियोट्रॉपिज्म को कैसे लिखोगे फोटो पर तो केमोट्रॉपिज्म वही पार्टिकुलर फॉर्मेट में लिखना है क्या लिखना है केमोट्रॉपिज्म में क्या लिखना है मूवमेंट ऑफ the plant parts movement of the plant parts in response to chemicals movement of the plant parts in response to chemicals ये हो गया chemotropism. Now how response to chemicals we are trying to understand. Here what is happening? I am talking about the ovary of the flower and I am talking about the stigma. Now these are all female parts of the flower and by pollination when the pollen grain comes and attaches to the same type of flower or flower of the similar species, then the pollen grain undergoes the process of germination, growth further. As I mentioned that it has to be similar species. No, this concept we have studied last year. So when I say that the pollen grain of one plant and the stigma of the other that we are talking about, has to be of two plants which are either related, similar type, or of the same plant. No. I cannot talk about the process of compatibility between the pollen of one plant or cotton and the stigma of the mango. नहीं ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. They are wildly different plants. So now if that is what it is happening, then we understand that this pollen will undergo the process of germination. So germination में क्या होता है? We have already learned this also a basic concept. If I talk about germination, the pollen nucleus undergo the process of division, where the nucleus of the pollen divides into two parts. याद है उसको क्या बोलते हैं? What are the two nuclei formed known as? हाँ? Polar nucleus. किसने बोला ये? किसने बोला polar nucleus? किसने बोला? So now that we are talking about the germination of the pollen, what happens? This nucleus divides into two nuclei first. And there are specific names to this nucleus, if you still remember, the generative nucleus and the tube nucleus. No, there were names, sperm nucleus and the tube nucleus. And then later this further divides, this, which we call it as a generative nucleus, further divides to form now known as male gametes, or the male nuclei. So ये जो process है, इसको बोलेंगे germination of the pollen. So for that, this germination of the pollen, which means a nuclear division followed by the development of that long pollen tube. And for this, now that I am talking about division, nutrients are required. For the process of cell division, nuclear division, nutrients are required. So the nutrients, from where will this pollen get the nutrients? The pollen will keep utilizing the nutrients from the style. The style of the flower is packed with nutrients, especially different types of carbohydrates, sugar. So now this pollen, as it germinates, it will take the nutrients from the style and keep on undergoing the process of cell division. जहाँ पे nuclear division हो रहा है, formation of the pollen tube हो रहा है. So are we not saying that the pollen germination, which is nothing but a process of growth, is in response to chemicals? It is responding to chemicals, no? Is the pollen tube growing in any direction? No. The pollen tube is constantly growing in a direction where chemicals are packed up. Chemicals are packed up, and it is utilizing the chemicals and in the process of cell division and growth. Unless and until it meets the ovule, the base of the ovary, unless and until it meets the ovary. So this is the concept of chemotropism. So there are many such other type of movements in the plants also, where we talk about that in response to chemicals, the plant parts can show certain type of movements. Thigmotropism. What is the meaning of thigmotropism? Again, tropism meaning a type of a movement in the plant which responds to a stimulus. Now, what is the stimulus right here? Touch. Touch is the stimulus. But what is exactly happening here? I talk about a particular type of a climber. Give you an example.
Money plant.
Money plant. Okay, chalo. Money plant. Now, this particular money plant, does it have firm stem? No, it does not. So now that I talk about that, ये जो money plant है, and it has started giving rise to some secondary stems. These secondary stems, it will generally start finding out a support. Say suppose now I attach one stick or a bamboo very close to this stem. Now what I'm going to observe is that this money plant, the stem, it will always try to constantly come over this. It will always try to twist and whirl and twist and whirl and trying to more or less make a spiral arrangement around that support. If I do, or if this stem does not have anything surrounding, no other stem, no other plant, no stick, no bamboo, then it will start growing on the soil, on the land. You must have observed the money plants that most of you must be having in your window sills. If there's nothing like this, then they'll start growing on the grill. They'll take the support of the grill and they'll keep on creeping, and constantly spiraling. Why do they do that? Because once they get a support, they keep on moving around that support. They keep on growing around that support. They keep on growing around the sense of touch. They keep on growing around that support. Now we are not talking about the sense of touch for animals. That means if I keep my finger, are they going to grow around my finger? Not that. But now that they get the support of other plants, a particular support like the grill or the stick or the bamboo or other nearby stem, they understand that they can constantly take a support of that. So it is the example that you come across any creeper, any climber, they generally show this type of a behavior because the flowers and the leaves are much more heavier than the stem in this type of plants. You talk about the other different type of crops and vegetables. If I talk about the cucumber is there, the pumpkin is there, the gourd, all this type of plants, where the fruit flower is much heavier than the stem. So this is a concept of thigmotropism. But if I talk about this as thigmotropism, this is not the rainy portion, I suppose. Now, if this is thigmotropism, then do you have nastic movements in your portion? No, actually. Okay. So that much only in your syllabus in that case. So if I talk about, just to compare, I talk about that if this is thigmotropism, then can you tell me what would be the difference between when I touch the touch me not plant, when I touch the touch me not, the entire row of leaflets close. Shall I say that that is also thigmotropism? Can I say that that is also thigmotropism?
No.
Thigmotropism?
No.
Why not?
Because movement towards the touch isn't happening.
Acha, movement towards the touch is not happening. And now that the leaflets close, they open up within few minutes again. The movement is irreversible or reversible? Reversible. Reversible. And now that the leaves are closing up and opening up again, did the leaves grow anyhow?
No.
No. So are they falling in the concepts of tropic movements, tropism? No. So that is what we talk about as nastic movements. You may just get a question in your paper that the closure of the pitcher plant, the closure of the touch me not, the closure of the bladderwort, Venus flytrap. So many examples like this. This is not belonging to the concept of thigmotropism. That's different. Because if I talk about all those examples, you may get a question. The closure of the leaves of touch me not are not thigmotropic movements. Why? Why should you say that it is not a thigmotropic movement? Because there's no growth. The movement is reversible. And it is not in the direction of the stimulus. It is completely away. Anyhow, it can happen. So, based on this 1 or 2 points, at least you can write. Now, give you a book. This is the one, the same book. That's it. Chalo. Now, those of you using Selena, you will take down this extra question. Some I want to give you a special to give reason ones. And then rest the diagram-based questions you will do from your book only. First of all, the give reason questions, just take down in your notebook. Then we'll try solving it together. Not you all can take it down later. Those of you are using Selena, I said. Give reason number 1. Dry seeds do not germinate. Take down in your notebook. Those of you are using Selena, number 1. And keep at least 2 to 3 lines gap between the questions. We'll fill up the answers later. Give reasons. Number 1. Dry seeds do not germinate. Number 2. You are using this book. Dry seeds do not germinate. Number 2. Plants bend towards the source of light. Plants bend towards the source of light. You all can start writing down the answers if at all you are sure. We'll discuss. Plants bend towards the source of light. Number 3. When apical bud, when apical, A-P-I-C-A-L, when apical bud is removed, the next axial bud, A-X-I-A-L, when apical bud is removed, comma, the next axial bud, wait, just 2 minutes, I'll give you the book. When apical bud is removed, the next axial bud begins to grow. 2-3 lines for the answer. Number 4. Some plants. No, this is not there in your portion. Okay. 1 minute. This is not there in your portion. Okay, you can write down. Some plants flower in summer. Some plants flower in summer and some in winter. Some plants flower in summer and some in winter. Next, auxins fail to enhance the growth of intact plants. Auxins fail to enhance the growth of intact plants. Growth of intact plants. Finish this first, then we'll take up some other questions. Give reasons, we'll do first. Take up. I'll give you 5 minutes. Think what to write. After that, I'll discuss with each of these questions. You three have the textbook, no? All three of you have? Give me one book. Please check. What is the answer for the first? Did you all finish the first one? First answer all over. First answer did you complete? What is the first question I gave you?
Dry seeds do not.
Dry seeds do not germinate. What to write? Did you write down the answer? Dry seeds do not germinate. Why? What to write? For the process of germination, what is necessary? Understand first, you can write in your own words. For the process of germination, the most important factors that is necessary, the three most important factors that is necessary is moisture, adequate temperature, and sunlight. Or if I say oxygen also, that's it. So if I talk about, yes, adequate amount of sunlight, intensity of sunlight and temperature, oxygen and moisture. So these three factors. Now I'm talking about a seed which is dry or a seed which is soaked in water. Leave it as it is for 1 or 2 days. You will get to see that the radicle has started coming out. But the grains and the seeds and the pulses that we store in our containers and the covers, does it start sprouting? No, we can keep them for 2-3 months also. No? They don't sprout. Why not? Because they have been already dried and dried and dried. And now that they are dry, why don't they allow the process of, why don't they come across the process of germination now? Because they don't have adequate amount of moisture, but they are getting oxygen. No? They are getting oxygen. I have my container of pulses. I keep it in the kitchen slab. Oxygen they are getting, but still they don't sprout. So which is the maybe the temperature is also adequate, room temperature, adequate temperature. Or if I keep it under the sunlight also, are they going to sprout? No. So what do you understand? Which factor is missing that they are not sprouting? Moisture, adequate amount of water, moisture. So dry seeds do not germinate because of the absence of moisture or water, which is a important factor for seed germination. Write down in your own words. So on that basis, you'll have to write. Give that energy. First, now go to the second. Fast, fast. Finish up the first. Go to the second now. If you are done with the first, let us start with the second. What is the second question I gave you? Plants bend towards the source of life. This is very simple. You know that what to write. Write in your own words. Why does the plant? What is the reason? Two sentences at the most you have to write. Because shoots show positive or positively phototropic. Shoots are positively phototropic and they bend towards the source of light during the process of growth. They bend towards the source of light during the process of growth. They bend towards the source of light during the process of growth. Done. Finish writing on the second. Now go to the third. What is the third? When apical bud is removed, the next axial bud begins to grow. Is a reference to what you should write? Apical dominance. Now what will you write there? What will you write there?
The growth of axial buds occurs only after apical buds are destroyed.
So that is the question given. What is the answer that you will write? What is the reason that when you are removing the apical buds, the axial bud starts growing? Why? Because auxin or the hormone auxin is majorly concentrated at the terminal region of the shoot, which promotes apical dominance, So now when you are cutting off or removing off the terminal region, which we are talking about as the apical bud, then the auxin distributes in the lateral region and now the axial bud growth happens. Write down. When apical bud is removed, right? Auxin concentration is maximum. Auxin concentration is maximum at the shoot tip. Auxin concentration is maximum at the shoot tip, which promotes growth of the apical bud known as apical dominance. Known as apical dominance, full stop. Full stop. When apical buds are removed, the auxin distributes in the axial region of the stem, and brings about axial growth. Up to the next. Some plants flower in summer, some in winter. What do you think so? Why?
Sunlight is required.
This concept is exactly not very much given in your book, but actually the concept is known as long day plants, long day tolerance, short day plants. Basically, there are two concepts: long day plants, short day plants. If I talk about, say, suppose now if I'm talking about, give me one example of a plant. Basically, give me one example of a flower that basically we get to see during the summer. Bougainvillea. Okay, bougainvillea more or less entire year. If I'm talking about certain type of flower, say suppose marigold. Though here marigold is culture, so we get to see marigold all throughout the year. But marigold originally marigold is actually found in the winter season. And if I'm talking about the summer we get to see the China rose more, the hot months. So now why like that? Why we don't get, there are so many plants like the chrysanthemum is there, and all these, the marigold, the chrysanthemum, the sunflower, all this we get to see basically on the winter. And there are some plants basically in the summer. The main reason is some plants require long duration of sunlight for blooming. Flower growth, seed germination, they require long duration of sunlight. At the same time, there are some plants, if we start growing them, the winter plants, you start growing them in the summer, do they grow well? They don't grow well. Because that long duration of sunlight, the plants start drying out. Now they require a shorter duration of sunlight and a longer period of shade. So basically there's a concept known as the long day plants, short day plants. No, that is what the concept, that is what the question is based on. Right on. Certain plants flower in summer because they require long duration of sunlight. For fruiting and flowering. Long duration of sunlight for fruiting and flowering. Whereas some require short duration of sunlight. Some require short duration of sunlight for fruiting and flowering. Hence, they are predominantly found in the winter. I give you one more. Auxins fail to enhance the growth of intact plants. Enhance, the last question there. Auxins fail to enhance the growth of intact plants. What do you understand by this? Auxins fail to enhance the growth of intact plants. What is the meaning of that? The last question that I gave you, check in your book. What is it? Auxins fail to enhance the growth of intact plants. Actually, here when you under auxin, is that what are the functions given there under auxins? Read out in your book. Cell elongation, yes. Apical dominance, that is okay.
Delay leaf cell senescence.
Root inducing.
Root inducing. Intact plants meaning quite a number of times we come across certain type of, say suppose now I talk about parthenocarpic plants. A particular plant which is grown by the method of parthenocarpy. What did I explain by the concept of parthenocarpy? What's happening? A new plant has formed, but whenever we are talking about that a new plant has formed or a seed has formed, a flower has formed, from the flower a seed has formed, the seed and the fruit will always get detached from the parent plant. But if it is a concept of parthenocarpy, what has happened? In case of parthenocarpy, fertilization did not happen, and without fertilization, the flower started growing giving rise to a new plant. So this new plant or the young plant is still in contact with the parent plant. The new plant is still in contact with the parent plant. So quite a number of times, these new plants, parthenocarpic plants, may not grow as adequately as in case of the parent plant. So that is what a concept. But I don't see any explanation given in your book regarding that. The question is there, but the explanation is not there in your book. Okay, right now you can write down this sentence. That is what the explanation is. I'll just give you a couple of sentences. Auxins slow down the process of growth. Slow down the process of growth of plants formed from fruits, or auxins slow down the process of plants attached to parent plants. Make it that way. Plants attached from or attached to parent plants. I repeat. Auxin, what I said, auxin slows down the process of growth in plants attached to parent plants and formed by the method of parthenocarpy. And formed by the method of parthenocarpy. Formed by the method of parthenocarpy and stimulates growth of fruits and plants formed by fertilization. Stimulates growth of fruits and plants formed by fertilization. Formed by fertilization. Okay. What are the other key present questions in this book? This one. What are the other key present questions? Let us check here. Now, okay. The other day, did I ask you to complete this diagram-based questions? Did you do? Yes? Some did not, I say. Okay. Take from Selena, you are going to try D number 2. D number 2. From Selena, first I'm saying that. Page 89. D number 2, 3, 4. D number 2, 3, 4. Same page, page 89. Same page, page 89. Differentiate number 2. Differentiate number 2, number C. I'm going to ask you to write down. The rest I think you'll be able to do. And number 5. So what I said, from question number 2, differentiate between number 2 sub number C I want you to write, and number 5 I want you to write. C sub number 1 I want you to write. Okay, heliotropism you have. Heliotropism you have. It's in a box here. No, it's not in a main part of the chapter actually. Okay, never mind. Will not do that heliotropism. The rest of the definitions will write. Okay, that much. First, I want you to complete the G set of questions. Those of you are using Salina. G set of questions. Those of you are using the other book. Those of you are using the other book. Move on to page 6.11. 6.11. Number 22. 6.11, 22. Number 15. 15. Number 8. Number 8. Number 5 get done. Number 6, math column get right. Number 7. So majorly I want you to try number 7, number 8, number 15 and 22. Fill in the blanks and all these things you will complete as homework. Karo complete. Chalo, go through fast. You have a doubt, keep asking.
D first also, second and third.
D, did I say first?
No, second.
Second. That's important. Second, I think more tropism, that one. D second. This chapter is done, no? In school?
Yes.
Complete name, were you done?
No. Started directly circulatory.
Achha. So what is the next chapter going on?
Circulatory.
Circulatory system, okay.
School completed with circulatory system, nervous and excretory.
So school is on a holiday now, all portions are over.
No, ma'am, this is like this chapter.
When is your next exam? When you said from 4th
October.
Achha, from 4th, okay. And this time they said September last. So in this, Achha, 12th September for you. What portion is what? There are also 3 chapters: absorption, transpiration, and photosynthesis. Excretory did we do here? No, we haven't. So circulatory. And for Podar also, portion is
Circulatory, excretory, and nervous.
Achha, nervous also. And this side?
We have the circulatory, chemical coordination, and
Circulatory chemical. That means circulatory and excretory is a common requirement for all of it. So in that case, next class we'll have to start with that chapter. Complete karo pehle ye questions dekho. Solve these questions first. Next class we'll discuss some of this. Because some of this question. Haan, bolo. Done? Number 2. Where are the rest of them? Another 2, 3 are absent today, no? 2 are absent. अभी तक भी वो लोग इंडिपेंडेंस डे मना रहे हैं क्या?
हमारा was in workshop. We told you.
अच्छा. Workshop. What workshop is it?
School workshop.
Career counseling.
complete this. Try completing these questions. The next class, first of all, I'll discuss with these answers. You first try on your own. We'll discuss with the answers. The next class, at least for 10-15 minutes, we'll first discuss with the answers, because since you have not finished with these questions, you should be thought with the answers first of this chapter. Then we'll move on to circulatory system the next day. We complete this as homework. Thank you.
उधर ना